We spoke about many attributes that are very, very important, critical for someone to become a Gadol in Torah, whether it's hasmada, diligence, whether it's love of Torah, whether it's davening for Torah, whether it's loving Jews, all of these different attributes. I want to speak about today in the final class which things are not critical and are not even an aspect of becoming Adam Gadol, which many people make the mistake. And the first thing is charisma. People think if a person is really charismatic and dynamic and is a great speaker, he knows how to speak well and use the language well, that means he must be a great person. It is true, there are some Gedolim who are very, very eloquent speakers. I know my Rebbe, Rav Moshe Shapiro, every time something would come out of his mouth, it was incredible, it was like poetry. And there are many, many other Rabbanim like that. But it's not a condition. It's not a condition to be very charismatic or be a great speaker. And we have to be very, very careful. We said in the first class from Rav Moshe Sternbach, quoted from Rav Meir Shapiro, that he would have 400 students, one would be a Gadol, and 399 would know what a Gadol is. All of the attributes we spoke about, that's what makes a real Gadol. Charisma, being a great speaker, that is not a requirement to be a Gadol. It's certainly helpful to teach Torah, but it's not a requirement to be a Gadol. Now another thing is, many, many Rabbanim have a Gabai, right, somebody who's helping them, and also what's called a Chatzar. They want to make sure that there's a lot of people around them and that they don't let you in your house. You have to get an appointment. You have to call this one. You have to call that one. Make it very, very difficult to speak to them. It is true that people who are very, very great, their time is limited and it's very hard to speak to them. You really have to make a major, major effort, right? But having a Gabai and a Chatzar, having someone there to tell other people how great you are, that's not the characteristic of a Gadol. In fact, it's probably, it's the opposite of what a Gadol really is. I once asked my Rebbe, Rav Safrani, or Shlomo Safrani, he should be healthy and successful in everything he does. Yeah. How do you know if a person is really a Shem Shemaim? How do you know if a person is really learning Torah? He's a great Torah personality. He said, I'll tell you, there's two things. There's the inner expression and the outer expression. The outer expression is how he uses money, how he works with his money, how he spends his money. Is it with honesty? Is it integrity? That's the outer sign. The inner sign is the tznius. If he doesn't tell people how great he is, he doesn't speak about it, he doesn't need to, have big fanfare all the time, that's a truly great person. Okay, so that's another midah, right, which people sometimes get confused about. A person could be not so emotional. Rev Yeshiv Zatzal was not such an emotional person, right? In fact, the one thing which he really loved was music and singing, and he decided that for the sake of becoming great in Torah, he had to break that. Right? A person can be unemotional, he can be not so emotionally expressive, and still be an Adam Gadol. It's not a critical condition for greatness in Torah. So these are the attributes that we don't need. In the course of these classes, we've spoken about many, many things which are needed to be an Adam Gadol, things which you don't need to be an Adam Gadol. Repeat again from a Rebbetzin Kushalevsky Zatzal, the first Rebbetzin of my Rosh Yeshiva, right? She said, you don't marry a Rosh Yeshiva, you make a Rosh Yeshiva, right? If a girl wants to really marry a Talmid Chacham, she has to realize it's going to depend on her, how much she gives to her husband, how much she values her husband's Torah. Rebbetzin Sternbach Zatzal would not speak to her husband in an apron because she said, I can't come in front of the king like that. Right? When they would travel, she would carry the suitcases. Right? She said, because the king can't carry the suitcases. They had one air conditioner in her house. She put it in her husband's study. And she used to painstakingly look at his notes and type them when they didn't have computers, typewriters. And that's why Sternbach has so many svarim out today, because of his dedicated wife. She took on all the yisurim that he would ever have in his life. Rav Sternbach is 98. He should be gesund. She took on all the pain they would ever have. She said he's an Adam Gadol, and she took it all upon herself. For the last 5 years of life were very difficult. I'm not saying that people could do that today. That's a very, very high level. But we see how dedicated a wife has to be, how dedicated a mother has to be. We said from around Soloveitchik, a mother's job is to give over the experience of Har Sinai, what Torah is, how precious it is. All these things could bring and lead to being Adam Gadol. I'll just conclude. We're starting a very, very important series to stop suffering. You can join up this series by sending an email to join@stop-suffering.com. Again, that's join at stop/suffering.com, and join up with this initiative. And we're going to be sending out once a week short clips with music and video, very powerful ideas how you could stop suffering. Please join us weekly for these classes, and hopefully together we'll be able to stop suffering. Hashem should help us. Amen. Kain Tiye Ratzon.